Welcome to ARDEX Answers podcast, where you'll find the latest and greatest on flooring, tiling and waterproofing, as well as general construction for the Australian building industry.
Welcome back to ARDEX Answers. I'm Monique Fenech, and joining us today is Chris Brady. Welcome, Chris.
Happy to be back.
Chris Brady is our Technical Services Advisor at ARDEX. Today's topic is about understanding dew point. So our first question is, what is dew point?
So dew point is basically a reference to a temperature at which any moisture in the air starts to condense and turn into a liquid form. We see this quite often in everyday circumstances, like you've got a nice cold can of drink and suddenly you start getting water on the outside of the can. That's where suddenly you've got a drop in temperature, where normal environment, you're walking around, that water's not going to condensate on you, but it is going to condensate on something that's dropped in temperature and reached a different dew point. Or it might not be specifically temperature related, it may be that humidity plays a big factor. Say you're in the shower, you've got a lot of steam in the area, the glass in your shower isn't at the same cold temperature that a cold drink would be, but because there's high humidity, requires less of a temperature drop to suddenly drop out and become water.
Right, makes sense. So why is dew point important in construction specifically?
So dew point's important because of the fact that when you have extra moisture enter into systems or reacting or curing materials, it starts to affect how quickly or how slowly they react. So a lot of cementitious materials, screeds, your tile adhesives, things like that, they'll all drastically slow down once you start introducing more water. They can also become more brittle once you really saturate them out. Another thing is certain epoxies. They're two-part formulations where there's a resin and a hardener working together. If you start introducing water into that equation where it's not wanted, then that starts to inhibit the strength development of that reaction. There's a few different things that it plays into.
I can see. When do dew point problems actually start occurring? So there's normal humidity, there's normal temperature changes. Mm-hmm. When is it a problem?
Well, that's really the two big things. It's all related to do with your temperature and humidity. If you ramp up the humidity or you have an uncontrolled humidity, say you've got no ventilation in an area, then you're more likely to start getting condensation forming. Or if suddenly temperatures are dropping, then that's also something that, say you are applying a membrane end of the day, just before the sun goes down, temperatures might be fine and there's no condensation happening at that point, but once the sun does go down, then suddenly the temperature will drop, that surface interaction will be colder now for the moisture in the air and it'll start condensating.
So where is dew point a major concern? What part of construction, what are we talking about? Indoor, outdoor, what are we talking about?
So it's a bit of both. Look, outdoor will have your biggest variation in temperatures. So suddenly you might have material applied to the outer skin of a building, which is in full sun. Suddenly it gets shaded, either it's afternoon or another building shadow suddenly is cast on top of that area. You will lose some temperature. It will start to drop. Not so much of a concern in, say, summer weather, where you might go from 30 degrees to 25. You're not hitting a dew point there. But where you're dealing with colder months, like your winter months, that's when suddenly maybe an average dew point that we give as a limitation for is 10 degrees. Say it's 12 degrees when it's in sun. That extra shadow, that shade, might be enough for suddenly that temperature to drop a little bit more, and then you start getting condensation appearing. So you can get areas like that, and also generally, increased humidity levels will start to make sure it actually happens a little bit more often.
What can installers do when that happens, when they see some condensation on their work?
So the biggest thing is making sure that you try to optimise your application times, recoat times of membranes, things like that. If you do notice that, say you've got 2-coat membrane system for a retaining wall, done your first coat, you've had to wait until the next morning, there's likely to be dew on the surface there. Don't start doing your next application because you'll have water trapped between two different waterproof layers and they won't really bond together that well. Another thing is, trying to control the elements as much as possible. Try not to start a job right at the end of the day just before the temperature's dropping. Try and do it in the morning so that you've actually got an increase in temperature over the day. An increase in temperature isn't going to cause more moisture to drop out. It's going to reduce that likelihood. Or if it's an internal area, you can help to control humidity by installing dehumidifiers or running the air conditioning on a dry mode. Also sometimes just general circulation, running some fans, not directly blowing onto it, because it's like blowing onto your skin. If you blow on your skin directly, you'll feel colder, you've got evaporation happening, and that itself will drop the temperature, which could bring it to dew point. But there are all a few different things you can do.
Okay. And where can people go for more information about this topic? Is there anywhere on the web?
For this one, it's something that we're in development of a technical bulletin, so it should be coming out quite soon.
Great. All right. Well, that's been really insightful. Thanks for joining us, Chris.
Yeah, happy to be here.
And bye for now.